Once more, thank you for this opportunity, Ambassador Ischinger, to discuss about the future of the relationship between the state of Kosovo and the state of Serbia. It is the third time for me to be in a panel like this one, and on the three occasions we talked about Kosovo-Serbia relations. I am impressed with the agreement that Tsipras and Zaev have reached, and I believe that not only that we have one less problem in the Western Balkans, but it's a giant step in establishing lasting peace and stability in the Western Balkans. Therefore, I believe that it would be very stimulating for us, and it's our turn actually of Kosovo and Serbia to reach an agreement. I'm very much aware that the relationship Kosovo-Serbia is much more complicated and much more difficult one than the relationship or the discussion that Greece and Macedonia had. We have a very old problem between Kosovo and Serbia, and of course 100 years of animosity and hostilities. And as you all remember, with a very fresh period of the war of Kosovo in 1998-99. Today I was more planning to focus on the future of the relations between Kosovo and Serbia, Pristina and Belgrade, but let me also add some points about Brussels as well. In 2013, we reached the first agreement between Kosovo and Serbia in Brussels, and I still believe this was a huge success. Most of these agreements have been implemented or are being implemented, but implementation of agreements can only be when they are in line with the Constitution and the laws of a country. Therefore, the messages that you just heard here are only slightly true. Also, what I would like to focus on immediately is where are we now? Where do we stand now? We are in a situation of a conflict, a frozen conflict, of a status quo that I believe that for Kosovo represents a regression, and it is vital that we move forward in finding a creative solution that would mean stamping one and for all the peace between Kosovo and Serbia. An agreement that will entail mutual recognition and, of course, Kosovo's membership in the Security Council, in the United Nations. President Vuçiq mentioned other points about Kosovo as well. Also, in the Brussels agreement, it was very clear that we should not be an obstacle for Kosovo, that nobody should be an obstacle for Kosovo membership in international organization. You all remember what happened in UNESCO or Interpol, and this has caused the reaction of Kosovo with the tariffs, that I continue to believe that the sooner it is suspended, it will give a chance to the dialogue between our countries, our people, and also will not give anybody any justification to condition the dialogue. The dialogue should continue without any conditions. We've had more than 100 reasons to put conditions to the dialogue, but we never did. We were always very generous to work to getting closer and to reach an agreement, final agreement. Of course, there are challenges between us, but what is very important, the Serbian community should not be used only for political gains by the Serbian state. We will work hard, and I wish that we see flexibility, creativity also in Belgrade, and that in weeks and months to come we find a final agreement that will preserve multi-ethnic character of Kosovo and of Serbia, that will conclude once and for all hostilities between Kosovo and Serbia, and not between Albanians and Serbs. But of course this would have reflection in all the countries where Albanians live, but also Montenegrins, Macedonians and others. This agreement would help peace and stability in the region, but also let me add something as well. It has become almost like fashionable to mention the special court in every forum. Let me say that Kosovo has taken all its responsibilities for this issue together with United States and the EU, but everybody today asks who has been convicted for 13,000 civilian Albanians killed in Albania by the Serb forces, who has been convicted for 400 massacres committed by the Serbian state in Kosovo, or more than 20,000 victims of sexual violence by the state apparatus. This has not been done by Serbia. This has not been by the international community. Milosevic was in that, but we know how that finished. Nobody else was punished for. But let's focus towards the future. Otherwise, the victim, Kosovo is the biggest victim, the people of Kosovo who have suffered ethnic cleansing to the extreme. Today I was really focused on the opportunities or possibilities for the agreement and discuss about the future. But let me still clarify two things before I go back to the possibilities for the agreement. Yesterday I read that President Vuçiq said that he will defend Serbia strongly here today in the panel, but I don't know what he has to defend today here. It's easy to create drama or to play a victim, but we cannot rewrite the history. The whole world knows the ethnic cleansing in Kosovo was conducted by State of Serbia, Serb police and Serb military, but also another reality. Since June 1999, we had NATO, KFOR, UN, OSCE in Kosovo, and part of the Serbs who left with the columns of soldiers and police that left Kosovo. The Association of the Kosovo Serb Communities, yes, we agreed to establish this association of municipalities with majority Serb community, but we agreed that it has to be in line with Kosovo constitution, Kosovo laws, and meeting all the standards for local governance. The misunderstanding is that Mr. Vuçiq still doesn't understand that I'm the president of a sovereign country. Kosovo is a sovereign country recognized by 116 different countries. I think that if it was easy to reach an agreement, others before us would have reached an agreement. It would not fall on us to work for an agreement. But I still believe, I still hope that even though it will be almost impossible to reach an agreement because the hostilities are very big, very deep, but still I continue to hope. And why do I hope? Because there is willingness to sit down and discuss. At least Mr. Vuçiq and I, we sit down and discuss. Those who are opposed to dialogue and peace even propose building a wall between Serbs and Albanians. We do have differences in our opinions, but at least we do talk to each other. We have expressed our willingness and wish to sit down, to discuss, and really to reach not a temporary but a permanent agreement that will bring recognition of Kosovo and membership of Kosovo in the United Nations. But I also know that this will not be a present. The recognition of Kosovo will not be a present from Belgrade to Kosovo. I know that it has to be a compromise that we have to discuss jointly, authorities of Pristina and authorities of Belgrade, with the leading role of the European Union. And why can we reach an agreement now? Because European Union is leading, and I invite all member states to be as much unique as they can in their support for the process. United States are very clear, and they have clarified this in the letters that President Trump has sent to Mr. Vuçiq and to me, again 2 days ago. But what is new is that in Rabi we didn't discuss about agreement between Kosovo and Serbia or in Vienna. But now we are discussing Kosovo and Serbia and expressing readiness to come to an agreement. Also, what is new and hopeful, though there are no guarantees, is that even Russia might accept an agreement reached between Kosovo and Serbia. This would mean global recognition of the agreement, and it would finally put a stamp on peace and stability in the Western Balkans. Therefore, unity of EU and US, I'm very convinced, will help us a great deal to reach an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia. We will build peace, though we will have differences, but Kosovo and Serbia can be a model like German-Frank model of after the Second World War. I know there is a lot of skepticism, there are those who are criticizing, but I don't hear any alternatives, any ideas how to move forward, how to overcome this status quo, this frozen conflict. I hear talking about Pandora's box, but in reality, in the Balkans, Pandora's box has already been opened. And it's exactly this agreement between Kosovo and Serbia that will help to close the Pandora's box. Leaders of the region, Montenegro, Albania, Macedonia, support our efforts. There are others who are only presenting ideas who really don't stand ground, who don't reflect the realities of the developments in the Western Balkans. We can maintain this frozen relationship, but this will reflect negatively in the whole Western Balkans. And as long as we don't reach an agreement as Kosovo and Serbia, there would be even more influence in the Western Balkans by non-Western or anti-Western ideologies in the Western Balkans. Less in Kosovo, since we are the most pro-European and pro-American country in the Western Balkans, even though we are the most isolated one. But we don't have any alternative. We will not save to reach an agreement with Serbia this year, even though we are still very far and we have great differences. But a balanced agreement that will not bring joy to another one and misery to another one, but will move us beyond animosities and to loss in friendship.
But let me say one thing about it. They are doing something that we were doing after the Second World War. Self-victimizing themselves everywhere. Whenever you say something about non-fulfillment of their obligations, they always call for some remembrance of the days from the past. And if you say something that they don't like to hear, it's always rewriting of history. Okay? If that's easier for you, it's okay. But I have a very single and a very simple question on which you have no response, Mr. Thaçi, and none of you. And that is, if I don't accept that you're a leader of a sovereign state, and I don't accept that before we reach, maybe one day, who knows, or some other guys will reach it, that agreement. My question is, why do you need me? Why do you need us? Why do you negotiate with Serbia? If everything's finished, if everything's done, why do you need us? How did it happen that you are still not a UN member state? How is it happening that you are not a member of Interpol? How is it happening that you are not a member of UNESCO? Because you're consolidated sovereign state according to your words. It means that you need to negotiate, and we need to negotiate, not because we are not a consolidated state, we are, but we need to keep the peace, we need to maintain tranquility. That's why we need to talk to you. And it's very honest, very sincere, maybe selfish, but that's the real reason. And you have your own reasons. We don't expect nothing from EU. They're good hosts. We do all the negotiations under the auspices of EU. We have no bad words about Mogherini, about the other people. like we hear from Pristina, because there is always fault on the other side. It's never their fault. One day it's Serbia's fault, another day it's European Union fault, the third day it's Russia's fault, the fourth day it's I don't know which fault, but it's never their fault. I think that the persons to be blamed, it's Mr. Thaçi and myself, and no one else, because it's about us. It's about us creating an atmosphere, creating an environment. And there are a lot of people here that can confirm these my words. We are doing our best to lowering an expectations of our public audience. They're doing their best to expanding an expectations of their own public audience. And that's what creates bad atmosphere for the future. And on the other hand, speaking about land swap, we hate this kind of term, because it would mean that two sovereign states are changing something. But that's why we are using demarcation. And from the very simple reason. When I ask you, dear friend Mr. Rishinger, which borders we are talking about? Borders that are recognized by Germany or by China? By US or by Russia? By Spain or by Italy? By Greece or by Turkey? By Belgrade or by Pristina? Totally different borders. Totally different borders. That's why we need to negotiate. That's why we need to negotiate absolutely everything, every single issue. That's why we need to be as much open as it is possible to hear the other side. And I'm always ready. There was no single topic that we launched that I didn't listen to Pristina's delegation. There was no real topic that we didn't want to listen to their remarks, to their requests, to their demands. And that's what we ask for ourselves, nothing more than that. And you see today, because it's an open session, we discussed all our issues in a way that it is. It shows all the difficulties, and it's better to be seen how difficult that is and how difficult that might be in the future than to, do that sort of charade for the international public audience. Now we are going to get a Nobel Prize. Hey, come on, it's ridiculous. What we need, it's a dedicated, very hard work with 1, 2, or 3% of chances trying to reach a possible compromise. I can guarantee from Serbian side, from Belgrade side, that we'll do our best, and I cannot guarantee that we'll be successful.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm afraid we've really run out of time. We're already 5 minutes into overtime. So we need to conclude this session. But let me first and foremost say the following. We, as the organizers of the Munich Security Conference, we have made a number of efforts to put on stage together leaders who have a problem. And I'm not now going to name names. I'm a diplomat. But I can tell you that these two are the only ones who agreed to do it without being able to celebrate today and to say we did it. But you were gracious enough, and if I may say so, courageous enough to come to this stage to explain what's not working and to some extent why. But I think I also appreciate the fact that you both repeated your commitment to continuing this process. And just to repeat, of course, I can't speak on behalf of any government. Johannes can speak on behalf of the European Union. I think all of us, our governments, our institutions, are willing to provide assistance, support, help, if anything can be done to advance the process. So I really want to thank you. And I have one little wish. Now that we've decided to celebrate today in this previous discussion and tonight at the dinner with the Kleist Award ceremony, North Macedonia and Greece. Wouldn't it be great if next year you two guys could get this award? Try to do it. Thank you very much.